Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Nerd Nest podcast. I'm Bill. I'm trying to see which side this is. To my right is Fox, and of course, Kyle, aka Cryobite33. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today? Fox, what are you up to?
Right now I'm loading up a bunch of things and benchmarking once again across a whole bunch of different stuff.
Oh man, yeah, you run a lot of benchmark stuff. Like how many times have you done benchmark stuff on the deck so far?
Um I mean I there's a bunch that is automated. So if we count that it's hundreds of times. But then there's stuff that I don't have automated because it's not I haven't figured out a way to automate it. So there's like things that are like standalone benches and stuff that are easy, but then there's other ones that I'm just like I guess I could use auto hotkey and some other stuff, but I don't know. I just do it myself.
Is there
But
a
yeah, like
version of
hundreds of
auto
times.
hotkey for Linux?
Well,
Not
I'm
official now.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm thinking of Windows in my head.
Well, yeah, like right before. I don't want to spoil anything, but he had a device on his desk that was making a whole bunch of noise right before the show. Anyway, Kyle, what have you been up to, man? What's new?
Honestly, the same benchmarks. Lots of benchmarks. Lots of graphs.
Benchmarks and graphs. These are two things that I don't ever do in the content that I make. I never do benchmarks. I never do graphs. I always appreciate it, but about halfway through a benchmarks or graphs video, my eyes just glaze over and I'm like, I can't. I'm just like, I just want to skip to the end and say, just tell me the end of the story. I don't care. But there's a lot of people out there that do. So if you guys are looking for benchmarks and graphs, make sure that you check out these guys' channels. This is the Nerd Nest podcast where we talk about the video games that we've been playing as well as the video game news. We are short Russ and Richard today. They both had stuff that came up at the last minute, so they could not join us. But I'm sure that they'll be back next week, just like Cryobite couldn't join us this week. If you are here for the very first time and you're watching this on our live over on the YouTube channel, then make sure that you subscribe to the show on podcast. If for no other reason than just to give us a few extra downloads. And if you're listening to this and you're like, where can I be here for the live shows? Well, we do this on Tuesdays in the afternoon over at nerdnest.tv or youtube.com/nerdnest. Now, I'm looking at the show notes and I see that all three of us, none of us added anything to the show notes for what we've been playing. I haven't played anything this week that's new. The only game that I've been playing is more Resident Evil 4. I was fighting a certain boss. I won't say which boss it is because I don't want to spoil anything. And I just kept getting my butt kicked over and over and over. And the game was insulting. It said, hey, loser, maybe you should lower the difficulty a little. And for some reason, I was against it. I was like, no, I'm not going to lower the difficulty. I finally broke through, got a little bit further, and I'm still enjoying it, but I'm ready to be done with the game, even though I have really been enjoying it. But I haven't played anything new this week, just, the same stuff that I've been playing. But what about you, Fox? What have you been playing?
So I once again returned to Minecraft Legends, and I played that for a few more hours. Got a little bit more time into there. I've been enjoying it. It's in some ways it's like you can feel like there is a deeper complexity to the gameplay, and then in some ways you can almost feel that it's uber casual on another layer. They give you copious amounts of time to like get anything done. So they're like the village is going to be under attack by nightfall. So set up base, and it's super intuitive to set up, camp and all the other stuff like offensive towers and stuff. And right now I only have limited stuff, so I have like towers that just shoot arrows at incoming mobs. But yeah, I'm like feeling it. Like it's slowly starting to build into more for me. But then after I finished it, I built one resource that allowed me to get new resources, like so you can get iron and gold and other stuff, and they slowly give this out to you. But I I wanted more, and it's like you need more something, lapis lazuli or something, and I'm just like I don't have that. So it just that's where I basically stopped playing. But I was really enjoying it and feeling it when I had played it a little bit further and got into the base building side of things. I really want to play versus mode really bad. I want to play like with people instead of just single player.
hmm Yeah, I did lie. I played a little bit of it, but only the tutorial. And I went through the tutorial. I got to the part where you collect stone, and then I got to the part where you collect wood. And I think my phone rang or something. I got distracted. Oh, I remember. There was a friggin' earthquake like a mile from my house, which is weird because I live in New York. So there was an earthquake that happened, and I put the game down and I never got back to it. So that's definitely a game that I want to check out. Kyle, what have you been playing?
Nothing new. Honestly, just Breath of the Wild in all of my free time. I'm just trying to catch up on anything I might have missed before Tears of the Kingdom. So I think I've put, I don't know, probably 40 or 50 hours in the last week and a half or so. Yeah, just trying to do everything. I just finished all the Divine Beasts. I'm at like 90 shrines and 120 Korok seeds or something, and I just started like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. So I'm just trying to get as much done as I can before Tears of the Kingdom comes out.
You've been going hard in that. That's a lot in in just a few days. When you played it before, did you finish the what the heck's the extra thing where you go in? It's like the challenge, the
Trial
challenge.
of the Sword?
Yeah. Trial of the Sword. Did you finish that in hardcore mode? Because I did not.
I have not actually played Master Mode, and I plan on doing it. I plan on going back and doing it after Tears of the Kingdom comes out.
Now, I don't know if you guys can remind me. In Breath of the Wild, you cannot play Master Mode from the start, right?
I think you can.
Can you? Okay. So if that's the case, I think when Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I think I'm going to be playing in Master Mode from the start, because for me, not because I want the increased difficulty, I just felt like it forces you to play so much more aggressively. And I really, really like that. Chalice DJ in chat says that you can. So thank you very much for that clarification, Chalice. I really, really enjoyed Master Mode a lot more than the other way because it forces you to get aggressive. Otherwise, the enemies start to heal. So you really have to be aggressive when you play. Carrie, I can't remember. Did you play Master Mode?
Yeah, so I beat the game once all the way through, and then time passed, and then both expansions came out before I played again. And then after both expansions came out, I played again all the way through in Master Mode, and then also did Trial of the Sword in Master Mode, and that was like next level hard. Like that's where at the end you literally have like sticks and stones, and you're trying to take down the one-eyed ogre, and it's just like you really have to maximize what you're doing around there. But it's almost Soulsian, like where it's you're kind of doing paint by numbers eventually. Like what you need to do in that way, because all the rooms are the same, all the enemy placements are the same, so you're kind of just doing it over and over again, just like perfecting what you're doing. There's only one like super hard part, and it's like in the middle, thankfully, not towards the end. Is like two lizard guys. I don't lizard codes or whatever their names are officially, but they're super super tough because they're fast as all get out, and you have to keep pressure on them or else they heal back to full. And as soon as any of them start healing a little bit too much, there is not enough weapons for you to do anything meaningful. So it's just like, okay, well, GG. Even if you don't die, you just have to restart. There's just nothing that you're going to get done there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we only got 3 weeks left until not Trial of the Sword, Tears of the Kingdom, and my hype levels are through the roof, but I am not touching Breath of the Wild again. I'm done with that game. I beat it twice. I'm moving forward with my life with Tears of the Kingdom, and I cannot wait. All right. Speaking of things that we cannot wait for, I think that we need to talk about the Asus ROG Ally. It wasn't actually going to be in the show notes today, but then earlier today, a bunch of information came out about it. Carrie posted a video about it. I posted a video about it, although to be fair, my video I actually had recorded yesterday and I just posted it today. But first off, the price. There's an interview with, I think it was PC Gamer, and one of the people who working on the Asus ROG Ally, they said it's 200%, meaning that they are absolutely sure that it will be below $1,000. So here's my discussion question, and we'll get to the other stuff that came out today. Do you guys think that because we know that there's two versions of it. Do you think that they mean one of the versions is below $1,000, or that the Asus ROG Ally as a whole will all be below $1,000? I know that we talked about this before, but now we have a little bit more information. So, Carrie, start us off. What do you think for the price point? Do you think they'll both be less than 1,000?
So I'm of two minds in this particular respect. So the ROG Asus side of things, the pricing is the premium brand, so you have to always have that in your mind that they're going to be charging more for it. Juxtapose what I know what these pricings are from like a minimum order quantity type of way. So I can understand where that is, but obviously I know more than the Z1 side of things. I personally think they're getting a better deal on the Z1. Having said all that, there is some chat on the forum, Discord and stuff, that 200% is a specific number, and if they were saying 200 to indicate it's actually $800, so 200%, it's less than $1,000, is what a lot of people are riding on right now.
Okay.
So that's the Z1 Extreme is going to be $800, is what everyone is feeling in their gut. So we're just going to ride on that hopium.
All right. What do you think, Kyle? Well, actually, so you're saying the Z1 Extreme is going to be $800?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the Z1 Extreme is already been confirmed to be 512 gigabyte for its capacity. That's the only one that's there. And then the Z1, which looks like Phoenix 2, is only 256 gigabytes of storage. So I can't. Phoenix 2 is a very small chip. So charging a bunch for that is ill-advised. So I don't know which way, how they're going to navigate this. So that's basically, I feel like the Z1 Extreme should be $800. I personally was pegging it at $900 myself prior to all this, though.
Yeah, I was the same. I was like, it's going to be 1,000. It surprises me, the idea that the Z1 Extreme could be that price. So possibly the Z1 at $650. That way it directly competes with the Steam Deck. What do you think about that, Kyle?
I'm right in there with you. I think that it's going to start at $649, and the Extreme is going to be either $799 or $899. It depends on what margins they can get on the order quantities. All
right. So a couple of other things that we found out about it is that apparently it's no longer like the weight of this thing has actually reduced by quite a bit. It was originally said to be, I think it was 681 grams, and now it's down to 608 grams, which is, I think, about 60 grams less than the Steam Deck. So it's actually lighter than the Steam Deck, which is, I don't know if it's surprising or not. I mean, the Steam Deck is a big old chonker, absolutely. But for 608 grams, do you think that maybe that's a mistake? Shouldn't they beef it up a little bit more, make it heavier, and throw more battery in there, Kyle?
I mean, there's my opinion and what I think people are going to buy.
Right.
My opinion is, yes, I'm a big guy. I would like it to be heavier. I would like it to be more ergonomic and probably have a much larger battery than it needs. But I don't think people are going to buy that. So many people already complained that the Steam Deck was too large and too heavy, that going above that limit would probably just rule out a lot of potential buyers.
I feel like the people who complain that the Steam Deck was too large and too heavy are only the people who never put one in their hands. I could be wrong about that, but it's such a comfortable device when you're holding it. And it's so, like, the weight, the distribution is so well balanced. Let's move on and talk about the screen without getting super technical. Fox has an entire video about why FreeSync is so important. So we don't want to get too into the weeds on this, but Fox, tell us about the screen that's in the ROG Ally.
I will touch base on that in 1 second, Bill. I just wanted to mention Uzi38 in the comments mentioned that it was not Phoenix 2 based on the CPU ID in the Geekbench. Shout out to Uzi38.
I follow that. Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. FYI, it might not be the Phoenix 2. There's a Geekbench run with the same Cupid. Oh, CPU ID. Okay, not Cupid. Yeah. as the Phoenix. Okay. So that's interesting.
So
what's your thought on that then?
No, it's fine. It's just that when we were looking at it being like 7540U, the how they have it arranged, because it's almost their implementation of Big Little. It's not quite the same as
Mhm.
what Intel does with Alder Lake, where they're actually two different CPU UARCs. They're actually all Zen 4. It's just that two of them are full clock and potentially four are not full clock. There may be some discrepancies there. I don't really know specifically how they're arranging those Big Little side of things, but it's not that. So that doesn't really enter into it. It's basically going to be 6 core regular Zen 4. So that's basically it. I can touch base on the screen thing again though.
Yeah, go for it.
Basically, very quickly, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. With VRR, 120 hertz makes a lot more sense because, as we saw by the mentions that they were AMD released today themselves between the Z1 and Z1 Extreme, a lot of those games were not even hitting past 60 all that much. So when we look at it through that lens, especially when the VRR range is now confirmed to be 30 hertz to 120 hertz, if we just think about it, if frame capping the display to frame capping games to 60 and just letting VRR sort it out between 30 and 60, you're going to have a much better experience without having to worry about really trying to fine tune anything or really trying to finesse any of the internals to run in that and still have a very good time. So that is super huge and kind of solves one of the problems that I had with 120 hertz, because 120 hertz without VRR is a hard target, and trying to get a consistent 120 on a low power device is these are almost mutually exclusive ideas. So on older games, you can totally get that done, but with VRR, this solves a big portion of that, so that you can cover older games that can hit that, or very well optimized modern games that can hit that. But you can also cover games that don't hit that and still be nice and smooth in between there. The other bit that we have to mention there is that because they are saying FreeSync, this implies it's EDP, DisplayPort panel, which also implies that it's a landscape native panel, which is also excellent for Windows-based gaming, because older games like DirectX 8 and DirectDraw will not run correctly on portrait-based displays.
Yeah, another thing that I really like about this display is that it's a 500 nits of brightness. I don't know if you guys remember off the top of your head, what's the brightness on the Steam Deck? I think it's 400, isn't it?
I believe
Either
so.
300 or 400, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the brightest screen, and so I really like that we're getting a better screen in this device. I like that it's 16:9. I know that there's a lot of diehard PC gamers that love 16:10, especially if you play retro games, because it allows that screen to be just a little bit bigger. But it always just kind of drives me nuts when I'm playing non-retro games and there's black bars on the top and bottom. I feel like when I play a retro game, I don't mind black bars nearly as much as I do when I'm playing another type of game. I will say I wish that the bezels were smaller or at least more well hidden, because the bezels on both the Steam Deck and on the Asus ROG Ally are still pretty big, especially when you're looking at, you know, bezels on a phone that are so tiny. I just wish that devices could get there for the bezel size. But a 1080p landscape native monitor is going to free up so many problems. So definitely make sure you guys check out the Fox's video about just having the monitor on there. The last thing that I want to say about this is we have the launch event, which is happening on Thursday. I think it's a Thursday. On Thursday, May 11th. Here's what they have to say over on their press release. The official ROG Ally launch event will be held on May 11th, 2023. Please tune in and learn more about the full specifications and pricing. I really hope that that Carrie's pricing is accurate. The keynote will start at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I will be at work. Thanks so much, Asus. And followed by a panel discussion with product management director of gaming business unit from Asus, the head of Xbox hardware, and and the chief architect of gaming solutions and gaming marketing for AMD. This seems like a really big deal. And when you buy this thing, you get, I think it's 3 months of Game Pass, right?
That's what I heard as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you get 3 months of Game Pass included with this. So it seems like Microsoft is trying to say, they're almost trying to say this is the Microsoft handheld, even though they're not the ones making it. Do you think that there's anything that can stop people from putting Steam OS 3 point whatever onto this device? Either of you? Carrie, go first. Sorry.
So yeah, I don't think that there's anything fundamentally preventing anyone from installing Linux on this in any form or flavor. It's just about the manner of if you wanted to do SteamOS proper and hooking into all the things that the quick access menu does, you'd need to do that specifically for this particular thing. Chimera OS would probably be a better starting point. There's also Hollow ISO that you can use, but that's kind of a vanilla version of that as well. But regardless of anything, Rise and Adjust, you can compile from source on Linux and get that up and running yourself. So in no shape or form would you be restricted from running Linux of any form in this and having the handheld mode, this Steam Big Picture mode, run on the device to get a very Steam Deck-like experience.
Awesome. Anything to add there, Kyle?
Not much. I think it'll be pretty easy to get Linux on it. It's easy to get Linux on anything. It's just the nuances of hardware support. Since they're probably in bed with Microsoft, I assume it's an X input device for the controller. So Linux should already have native support for the controller. Touchscreen is a give me. I mean, we're talking about maybe the driver for the panel being off kernel, but for the most part, it's stock Linux.
Yeah, real quick, we got Latail Fantastic for Life in chat says, how long do you think the Steam Deck will be supported for? I think the Steam Deck, personally, I think it's going to be supported for a very, very long time. Valve has shown that for years, they have really wanted to push Linux as an operating system. And the way that they tried it first with Steam machines, they fell on their face only because, in my opinion, only because Valve didn't have Proton to help them with that. So now it's clear that the Steam Deck is a winner. It's doing really, really well. And it's going to allow Valve to keep pushing Linux and try and push Microsoft to the side as the de facto gaming operating system over time. So I think it's something that we're going to see for a really long time, whether it's the Steam Deck or the next piece of hardware from Valve, the Steam Deck 2 or Steam Deck 3, or whatever else that they bring out, maybe a Steam console, which I think Carrie and I made a video about that a really long time ago, where we talked about the possibility of Valve shipping a set-top box that goes underneath your TV and doesn't have to spend money on you don't have to spend money on a screen and battery, and you don't have to worry about heat issues. So I think that Valve will continue to support it for an extended period of time. Carrie, any thoughts there?
No, I'm in alignment with you. I think that I see there's nothing on the horizon that says that they're going to be stopping support. And even regardless of other hardware stuff, I think just the inherent upgrades to SteamOS itself, Proton, and all the other stuff naturally follows to if they were to make if the Steam Deck were to become an older device.
Yeah. And Kyle?
Honestly, I think they're going to support it for probably a decade. I think that's their minimum support. They supported all those Steam machines right up until the Steam Deck launched. They were still coming out with SteamOS updates, even on SteamOS 2, which was pretty awful, all things considered.
Well, the question is for all of you who are watching, let us know in the comments down below if you're watching this on the YouTube channel. What do you think of the possibility of the price of the Asus ROG Ally, and whether or not you have a Steam Deck? Are you interested in picking one up? I still have not made a decision for myself on whether or not I'm going to get one. But if I do, you guys will obviously be the first to know. Let's go ahead and move on to our next main topic today. And I love this. I love this topic so much. When the new consoles came out, we had so many scalpers out there snapping them up with bots and stuff, stopping people, like regular people like you and me, from being able to get our hands on these. I was able to pick up an Xbox Series X because mainly because I was following this guy on Twitter whose name escapes me, but he knew when everybody was going to get restocks and stuff. and I did like a trick with my phone and Walmart.com and like did the right combination of things in order to get an Xbox. The only reason that I have a PS5 is because one of my listeners reached out and they said, I have a PS5. I will sell it to you at cost. And I said, okay. And they sold me at cost a PS5. And that's because so many people were buying these things up en masse and then turning around and jacking the price up here huge. Why So Serious in chat is wondering if I'm talking about Wario 64. It was not Wario 64. It was somebody else. I just can't remember their name. But it seems like, the tables have turned and scalpers are struggling to sell the PlayStation 5 consoles because PS5 supplies have finally returned to normal after all of this stuff. Guys, well, first off, do either of you guys have a PlayStation?
Yes. I have a PS4 Pro. I don't have a PS5.
Okay. So, Kyle, did you pay above MSRP?
I did. It wasn't that high. I did, but it wasn't that high. It was like maybe $100 extra at the time. And this was like a month after release.
Oh, so you were able to get one right away. I waited a really long time before I was able to get one. The idea that scalpers are always like, we're going to run into the same thing with the Asus ROG Ally, is that there's going to be people who are scalping it. The only reason that didn't happen with the Steam Deck is because of the way that Valve handled the launch of the Steam Deck was friggin' brilliant, in my opinion. They said you had to have an account before we announced the Steam Deck. You had to have already spent money on that account on Steam at some point, and then it was just first come, first serve. You ordered your system, and then as soon as it was ready, they shipped it to you. This is the same thing that happens with phones when Apple comes out with a new phone. I don't know how Google does it, but when Apple comes out with a new phone, you order one, and if you're fast enough, you get it sooner, and if you're not fast enough, you get it later. But they just take your money and they say, all right, we'll hold on to, we'll charge you when it's your turn, and you will get your device, and you don't have to fight everybody by going to Best Buy or Walmart or Target or Amazon to try and click faster than all of the robots out there. So I love that this is happening. Carrie, are you experiencing any schadenfreude from this? Enjoying the fact that these guys are getting screwed just a little bit?
I mean, I think we all enjoy that, don't we? Like, I think it's a natural reaction when you're like, oh no, the consequences of your actions. There's a part of me that is very happy, and it fills my soul in some way.
Yeah, I love this. So I mean, this segment is about the PS5 and the fact that these are over. You guys think we're going to run into the same exact issue with the ROG Ally and other handhelds, that as they get into stores and regular people who don't just shop on online to get them? Carrie?
It's tough to say. It seems like Asus is very confident in their approach right now. I don't know to what degree the amount of supply that they're going to be shipping to these Best Buys, but they're talking about like a worldwide release.
Yeah.
And we say that May 11th, they're banging on all cylinders there. They got this all timed out. So I'm going to say that they've figured this out to some degree. Basically they have a bunch of marketing information that's already done for them by the Steam Deck itself. So they're like saying, oh, they sold 1 million units in a year. And they already have the roadmap kind of like paved for them. So it's like, potentially I don't see a problem here. Maybe in some stores they might have an issue, but no, especially depending on the price.
Oh yeah, that's true. If this thing is really, really expensive, then scalpers aren't going to want to take the risk. Kyle, do you think this is going to be is this going to be a scalping issue?
I think it will regionally. Some places to get lower order quantities, somewhere like Australia or something, they'll probably get scalped there. But the EU and the US, it'll probably be just fine here. This is where most of the units go anyway, and this is where they prioritize because they know they can get the most money in these regions. So I think we'll be safe in the EU and US at least.
Speaking of the PS5, apparently PS5 hardware unit sales, according to Matt Pescatella, on Twitter says that they have now surpassed that of the PS4 29 months into the market. I find this to be really, really impressive. The PS4 just absolutely dominated last generation. And for the PS5, with all of the issues that they had keeping them on store shelves, the fact that they now, if you align them by, okay, if they both launched at the same time, the PS5, with all of the issues that it have, or that it had getting onto shelves, has now passed the PS4 on a time-aligned basis. Do you think it's possible for the PS5 to be the best-selling console of all time? Like, it's just so insane how fast that thing is flying off the shelves, and crazy to me. Kyle, what do you think?
I don't think it'll be of all time, but I do think it'll probably beat the PS2 out. I think it'll be Sony's best-selling console. I don't think that they have a horse in the race when it comes to Nintendo Switch or the Wii, for instance. Everybody has a Switch.
Some people have multiples.
Exactly. Some people have one per person in their house.
Yeah.
You have maybe one PS5 hooked up to your big TV or something, unless you're a really big fan. So I think that it's much more normal to have a high quantity of Switches in one area.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The fact that the Nintendo Switch, you buy one for yourself and then you get one for everybody in your family. Like, for instance, I have one. My wife has a Switch Lite. My son has a Switch. My daughter has one. My other daughter has one. Everybody has one, but only the hardcore gamers like myself and my son, we have the PS5. So, my daughter does not have a PS5. Her boyfriend has an Xbox, the little one, Series S.
Series S, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the Series S. But you're right. People generally only get one version of a console, and everybody else is picking up a Switch for everybody in their household. Carrie, how many Switches are in your household?
Currently, 5.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Yeah, we don't have anything else to say there. That's perfect. Yeah. 5. All right. So PS5 is selling really well, but let's move on and talk about this is really interesting to me. Third-party device bans. It was not just Bungie, although I was having trouble finding the article about the other companies that were doing it. I know Activision was doing this as well. But we saw we've had issues with cheaters in video games for a really, really long time. It's super frustrating. And I always applaud when companies just go through and ban a bunch of cheaters. Well, Bungie announced that they are changing their stance on third-party peripherals. Here's what they had to say. Our community has grown increasingly frustrated by a form of cheating that uses third-party peripherals with the intent to manipulate the game client. These devices are plugged into a computer or console where they can, for example, execute simple scripts or trick the game into giving you extra aim assist. You'll note that we aren't calling out the services by name. The primary reason for that is we don't want to offer a bigger spotlight than necessary. Bungie embraces the use of external accessibility aids that enable the experience that game designers intended, but will take actions, including bans, based on people who abuse these tools specifically to gain advantage over other players. So I like that they're banning cheaters. I'm always for banning cheaters. Cheaters ruin other people's experience in video games, and I can't stand it when that happens. But I'm just worried about false positives here. Have either of you used any of these devices before in order to play games? I'm going to give an example. I don't know what the hell it was called, a Logitech G13, I think it was, which is this little thing where you could put your thumb on a joystick and then your fingers were over keyboard stuff. And you could set macros so that you could hit a button and it would press 1 and then press 2 and then press 3 or whatever. I never really thought of that as cheating. It was just a more comfortable way for me to play. Any of you guys ever use any of these? Kyle, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, what you described, the original one was like I think it was called a Nostromo or something. I've had
Yes, I had one
basically
of those.
every iteration of that.
Mhm.
And yeah, you could bind things. I mean, I think the problem isn't the fact that they're trying to ban cheaters, but the very nebulous wording they're using. Because I mean, this controller right here, like the Ghoulie Kit Kong Pro,
Mhm.
it has a
Oh, that's
macro
right.
function built in. It just has like a quick mash function. That's accessibility for people who can't mash, but is that an unfair advantage to them? I don't know. So I hesitate to say that it's a good policy overall, and I don't know that they'll be able to keep up with all the third party peripherals to know what is legitimate or not.
Carrie, how do you define some like what's the word that you just said, Kyle? Oh, I
Macro?
can't remember.
Macro?
No. How do you define? Do you consider those devices to be cheating?
The ones that Kyle is describing, or the
Yeah.
Nostromo itself? No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. So I mean, I have those types of devices as well. I mean, I get a bunch of them in, but they're really simple. And a lot of the things that you're going to be doing, like the macro stuff, is like on a record basis. So it's recording your own input before you can do that, or like Kyle was saying as well, like to make a button to be turbo. So in those particular instances, I don't really see how those could be considered cheating at all because they're a bit clumsy. I think the ones that that they're probably talking about are the ones that are like recoil dampening or recoil anti-recoil of if a gun has that, like in any particular thing. They have You can load a profile onto a controller on whatever game you're playing to respond act differently, that when you're holding down the right trigger, that it also auto aims down for you on the looking scope, which I guess would be like unnatural movement if it's very very programmatic like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the worry is false positives, and I agree with that. But that's a delicate balance, and I don't know how you would navigate that. Um, it's a tough spot to be sure.
Yeah, BPD in chat says they should just put all the people that they think are cheating into cheater lobbies and keep them distracted. If you boot them, they'll just find another way. And then Craig Joe also talked about this. They said Kronos, which I guess is the company that makes this stuff, they already stated that they're already aware and implementing a workaround for third-party accessory detection. So it's always going to be a losing fight. And I guess here's my question to, chat and anybody who's listening to the show. If it's always going to be a losing fight, is it worth fighting? I say yes, because I cannot tell you how many times that I've played a game and I've clearly seen somebody that's been cheating, and it has ruined my enjoyment, because I'm like, well, I mean, maybe we would have won if that jackhole wasn't cheating, but I don't know if there's ever any way that they will actually, like, the good guys are going to win. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. Craig Joe in chat says it's a cat and mouse game. It sucks, but there's money to be made. It's it's frustrating. And that's the thing I never even think about, is that these companies are making money off paying, like, people who are paying money to cheat. So any last thoughts on that, Carrie?
No, I mean, outside of the things that we already discussed before, it is a difficult situation to navigate. I do applaud them for trying to combat cheaters, and I can also feel a bit of empathy for people that want to cheat. I get the feeling like they're just getting housed on, and they want an unfair advantage. So it's a I don't know. It's a tough situation.
It is. Kyle, any last words here?
I don't think so. No. Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and like you said, I think it's a fight worth fighting, but it's an uphill battle.
One of my favorite things that I saw, it was when Guild Wars 2 was first out, is they found somebody who was cheating, and they logged into his account, and they basically, like, this is the devs. It might not have been Guild Wars 2, I can't remember, but it was a game. The devs logged into this cheater's account and took all of his stuff off, recorded themselves doing this, and then deleted his character as like a warning to say, don't do it. And I always like it when they take a firm hand with cheaters, but I also really worry about false positives because once you delete somebody's stuff, man, can you ever get it back? Speaking of can you ever get it back, I feel like I can never get back the time that I got fooled by watching this video of this incredibly realistic looking body cam footage that's a first person shooter. It's called Unrecord. We're all in a private Discord together, and somebody had dropped this in, and I took one look at it and I said, that's fake, fake, fake. There's no way that that's an actual friggin' video game. I said it's fake. No way. And then it turns out that it was real. So before we go any further, I'm going to ask chat to let us know in the live chat, did you get fooled, and be honest, okay? And Carrie, did you get fooled?
No, because I saw the earlier implementation of it, and I saw that this was the next iteration of it. So I had the hindsight of being exposed to it prior.
Oh, okay. What about you, Kyle? Did you get fooled by this ridiculously good-looking video?
No, I actually did not. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that the shadows to me felt a little off. So I was like, there's something weird about this. And that's as far as my mind went, and then I learned it was fake anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not fake. It's
yeah.
like they were saying this is gameplay, and I didn't believe them. I said, no, they're faking it. But it turns out it was real. So everybody else was doing that, like they were saying, nah, this is nonsense. There's no way. And then they said, okay, fine. We're going to show you this no clip version where they're walking through walls and stuff to show that it's real. Jem in chat says, when I first saw it, I was like, this is real life footage, but I did more digging on the screenshots of the game and changed my mind. Oh, wow, this is a game. And yeah, this is so crazy. It just blows my mind how much just the movement changes your perception of how real the game looks. Because if the game looked like this, but didn't move like this, I don't think, like, I wouldn't have thought that it was fake even for a second, because it would have been obvious to me. But the movement is so convincing. Do you guys think that this is that the real game is going to play like that, or do you think that this is like a scripted sequence where they programmatically went through and said, okay, at this point we're going to move the head a little bit like this, or we're going to move the arms like this? Or do you think the actual game will feel like that when you're playing? Carrie?
So the dev studio that's doing this, they're actually pretty talented. The first iteration that they did of this definitely looks like a game. In fact, the first iteration that they did, it was almost very FMV like almost like design wise, that's what they were going for. So even when they were like shooting the gun, the types of animation that was happening was reminiscent of like just almost like FMV, like in a shooting gallery game of like just the how it was happening. And then with this updated one, it's far more realistic, especially when they have the cop calling for backup and putting his hand up over the body cam itself, and just how they're doing everything, all the like the little bits of how that camera responds in real life, and taking a look at that and trying to match that. So I think that they're going to the extra lengths of everything. If it will play like that in the game, I'm sure there's going to be moments, and then there's going to be moments that are just kind of goofy and not like well done. But animation wise, it seems really good.
People in chat are saying, is this a VR game? I'd like to see this in VR. Kyle, I don't think it's not a VR game, but would that convince you more that you want to, like, would you prefer this to be a VR game or a non-VR game?
I'm biased. I don't like VR, so I'm going to say a non-VR game.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I just I get real motion sick from VR, so I can't play it if it's VR.
There you go. Perry David Van Dillen in chat says the exposure adjustment on the sky is a very nice touch. I totally missed that the first, second, and third times that I watched it, but as somebody who works with cameras a lot of the time and like trying to expose things correctly, because I record something on my camera and then in post I go in and I adjust the exposure, which is how bright or how dark things are. And absolutely, in the sky you can see where the camera's looking at a thing, and it adjusts the camera is smartly adjusting the exposure because the sky's blown out, and so it's like it's either reducing it or increasing. I can't remember what happened in the video. And the little touches like that, like when Carrie said, when the person covers up the camera when they're calling for backup, all of that is super, super realistic and convincing to me. And honestly, if games look like this, what was the first game? Okay, Carrie, what's the first game that you saw and you were like, it'll never get better than this? This is as good as it can possibly get.
Oh man, it probably was Crisis. Yeah, it was probably Crisis. Just like looking at all the leaves and the leaves and everything. Like also just that it was like mind blowingly hard to run. I was like, oh, this is Endgame. That would be my first one.
What about you, Kyle?
I didn't have very good computers, so I'm gonna go with the Xbox version, Halo 3.
Nice. Yeah, I can't tell you which one it was for me. Oh yeah, Zombie Jesus in chat says BioShock. Yeah, when BioShock came out, that game just absolutely blew my mind. All right, let's move on, and I want to talk really quickly about whether or not Game Pass is hurting Microsoft, because we saw a couple of tweets, although I think this tweet actually got deleted after the fact, but the tweet was that basically people were saying that Hi-Fi Rush, which is this absolutely fantastic game that was announced without any where you no build up, like they didn't tell us anything about it ahead of time. The game was done and it launched and it was out, and if you paid for Game Pass, it was included. And then there were rumors that people at Microsoft were disappointed with the sales of Hi-Fi Rush. And a lot of people, myself included, were like, how can you be disappointed with the sales of a game that is included in Game Pass and was not advertised at all ahead of time? It just came out and everybody was like, holy cow, this is awesome. But then it's not going to sell on other platforms. And it got me thinking, does Game Pass hurt Microsoft? Because Microsoft is getting X dollars a month from everybody. But I mean, how many okay, here's the question, Kyle. How many games have you bought on your Xbox so far?
I mean, I don't have an Xbox right now.
Oh, jeez, I thought that you did. Carrie?
So I to be truthful, no. If Game Pass didn't exist, I probably wouldn't be playing on my Xbox at all.
Yeah, I mean, I have bought 2 games on my Xbox. I bought Tiny Tina's Wonderland and I bought Mass Effect, the trilogy thing. And every other game that I'm playing on my Xbox, all of them are on Game Pass. And so, I mean, if I buy a game, I buy it on my PlayStation or I buy it on my PC or I buy it on my Switch. I don't buy any games on my Xbox because I'm like, I don't want to buy it and then be like, oh shoot, now it's on Game Pass, meaning I didn't have to spend that money. Is that the reason why you don't have an Xbox, Kyle?
Partially. I mean, I don't see the need most of the time. I don't even have Windows on most of my stuff. I do have one thing to say about whether it's losing Microsoft money, though.
Yeah.
I think that it's not losing them money overall, but it is losing their game division money. How many people have a Steam Deck, install Windows on it just because it has Game Pass?
I don't think that many.
Yeah, I mean,
I see it all the time. All the
do?
time.
At most, it would be 2 million people. That would be the most. Carrie, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree that the main reason for installing Windows on I'm making a Windeck is for Game Pass pretty much exclusively. Like outside of some like other things, like maybe Genshin Impact because of anti-cheat, being a concern. There's like a few other reasons why they would do that, but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I would agree that many people do Windeck for Game Pass, but I just don't think that a lot of people do it. I mean, me myself, I prefer Steam OS over Windows on Steam Deck, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think that a lot of people get frustrated by the Windeck experience. But to your point, I see where you're going with it. I just don't know how many people actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just using it as a sample, like a sample reference, because we're Steam Deck YouTubers sometimes. So, I mean, think of how many people in the world at large that stay with Windows or stay with Microsoft because they have this library of games. Microsoft has transitioned away from the monolithic purchase model and to the service model. And I mean, you can see all the things that, I mean, even Windows is advertising to you now.
Mhm.
So it's more about like data collection and you as the service rather than you are purchasing a game up front now. So while their game division might be losing hand over foot, Microsoft as a whole is profiting a lot from all the data it can gather, all the services it can cross-link into, Windows retention numbers, everything.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I would say that when you look at the current generation, which I hate to include Nintendo in that because it feels super last gen because it came out during last gen and we're expecting we've been talking about the Switch Pro or the Switch 2 or whatever the hell you want to call it for a long time now. But let's just include the big three, okay? All of them have a very different strategy for how they want to acquire customers. You look at PlayStation. PlayStation is, we're going to try and get you with exclusives. You look at Microsoft and they're like, we're going to get you with subscription. And Nintendo was like, you can take our system with you when you go places. And none of those three are fighting the same fight. They're all playing a completely different game. One of them is boxing, the other one's playing football, and the third one is playing cricket. None of them are playing the same game. And I think that that's one of the reasons that all three of them are doing so well. Although, obviously, one of them is doing much better than the others. I just, I feel like as a consumer, I love Game Pass. I think Game Pass is fantastic. But for Microsoft, like, I don't know if it's a good bet, especially when you look at how all the video streaming services have been kind of changing their tune on whether or not it's a good idea. Like some of them are like, we've actually been losing a lot of money by trying to do this. So whether or not it's good to have a subscription service or not, I don't know. But I'm curious what everybody in chat thinks about it. I just think that it's like Hi-Fi Rush, like for people to be disappointed in its sales, I can't see how anybody could be because it was included for free in a subscription that people already had. Anyway, let us know what you guys think. And I think that does it for this episode of the Nerd Nest podcast. Before we get out of here, Carrie, you put out a video today. Can you just give everybody the elevator pitch on your video for today?
Yeah, sure. So the video I did today was on the Asus ROG's Ally's inclusion of FreeSync and why that matters more than just FreeSync, and how landscape-based displays on Windows-based handhelds are actually very important.
And Kyle, when's your next video or your last video? What's going on with you?
My next video is secret, but my last video was Hogwarts Legacy's deck dive. I got some pretty good performance, almost a lock 60 in places on the Steam Deck. And I included overclocking and undervolting results too. So it's good if you actually want to play it on the deck. I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. And I put out a video today about the Steam Deck versus the ROG Ally and why I think it's a ridiculous question. So make sure that you guys check out all of these videos and subscribe to CryoBite33 and Fox on YouTube. And I hope to see you all on the next episode of On Deck, which will be, or not On Deck, that's the old show. Whoops. Of the Nerd Nest podcast, which will be next Tuesday. So you guys stay awesome. Thanks for hanging out. Carrie, Kyle, tell everybody goodbye.
See you later.
Bye, guys.